بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذرياته ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته وتبع هداه إلى يوم الدين تركنا على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزول عنها إلا هالك ثم أما بعد. So alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hadana lihada wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us to this, and were not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would surely have not been guided. فَالْهِدَايَةُ مِنَ Allah. So guidance is solely from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's one of the themes that we find throughout our beautiful tradition, and we also find it amongst the heirs of this tradition, the heirs of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people like Shaykh Abd al-Qadir, Muhyiddin, al-Jilani, radiyallahu anhu. So we're reading from his discourses, from his majalis, entitled Al-Fath al-Rabbani wal-Qadir al-Rahmani, the divine revelation and the merciful divine outpourings, sublime revelation and the merciful divine outpourings of Shaykh al-Qadir al-Jilani. And we have reached the 43rd discourse out of 62. And the Shaykh begins by saying, radiyallahu anhu, at the beginning, إذا أردت الفلاح فخالف نفسك في موافقة ربك عز وجل ووافقها في طاعته وخالفها في معصيته. نفسك حجابك عن معرفة الخلق، والخلق حجابك عن معرفة الخالق عز وجل. فما دمت مع نفسك لا تعرف الخلق، وما دمت مع الخلق لا تعرف الحق عز وجل. ما دمت مع الدنيا لا تعرف الآخرة، ما دمت مع الآخرة لا ترى رب الآخرة. مالك ومملوك لا يجتمعان كما لا تجتمع الدنيا والآخرة، فهكذا لا يجتمع الخالق والخلق. النفس أمارة بالسوء، هذه جبلتها. فبعد كم وكم تأمر بما يأمر به القلب، جاهدها في جميع الأحوال ولا تحتج لها بقوله عز وجل فألهمها فجورها وتقواها. ذوبها بالمجاهدة فإنها إذا ذابت وفنيت اطمأنت إلى القلب، ثم يطمئن القلب إلى السر، ثم يطمئن السر إلى الحق عز وجل، فيكون شرب الجميع من هنالك. إذا تم تذويبك لها تنادي من حيث قلبك. ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما. So he says, if you wish for success, and those who are following along, this is page 257, if you have the translation, falah. So here, falah is a kind of a divine success, not success necessarily in the stock market or your 401k or the local bowling tournament, but falah, success, fil akhirah, true success. You must contradict your lower nafs. If you wish for success, you must contradict your lower self, your nafs, for the sake of concurrence with your Lord Azza wa Jal. Concur with it in obedience to Him and contradict it in disobedience to Him. Your lower self is the obstacle keeping you from real knowledge, ma'rifah, of creatures, while creatures are the obstacle keeping you from real knowledge of the Creator. As long as you remain stuck with your lower self, you cannot really know al-khalq, yani creation, and as long as you remain stuck with creation, you cannot really know the Lord of Truth, al-Haq Azza wa Jal. As long as you remain stuck with this world, you cannot really know the hereafter, and as long as you remain stuck with the hereafter, you cannot see the Lord of the hereafter. Possessor and possession, Malik wa Mamluk, are not to be confused, as this world and the hereafter are not to be confused. In the Arabic it says la yajtami'an, which would mean perhaps not to be conflated or can never join in a single heart, I think is also what the Shaykh meant. By the same token, Khaliq and Khalq, creator and creatures, cannot join together or cannot be confused for one another. The lower self is given to commanding evil, ammara bis-su'. This is its natural disposition, its jibillah. How long, therefore, will it be until you take your orders from what the heart, the qalb, commands? You must struggle against the self under all circumstances. Do not give it a pretext by citing its words, his words, Azza wa Jal, and he inspires it with awareness of what is wrong for it and what is right for it. Ayah from the Quran. Melted down through struggle, for when it has melted and faded, it will become meekly subservient to the heart. Then the heart will become meekly subservient to the innermost being, the sir. Then the innermost being will become meekly subservient to the Lord of Truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all will drink from the same source. When the process by which you melt it down has been completed, you will receive a summons relevant to your heart. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُمْ رَحِيمًا. And do not kill your own selves. Surely Allah is ever compassionate to you. So, Shaykh here, he kind of outlines roughly a program or let's say a methodology by which we can try to overcome our lower selves. And this is referred to in the Quran as an-nafsu al-ammaratu bis-su', as I think we've discussed before. So the one that is ever inviting you or coaxing you or commanding you to iniquity. And this is something all human beings have, even prophets and messengers. And for our success, then contradiction is the main remedy, is the main tool by which to overcome this lower self. And it is relentless, it is unabating, it doesn't give up too easily, but it is not invincible. So it's not impossible. And the Arifin Billah, they say that when you learn to identify the whisperings, the machinations of the self, then that's the first step towards getting a hold of it. And some of them said that the lower self, similarly to shaitan, it's kind of like an untamed or a rabid dog. If you try to wrestle with it and try to overcome it with your own willpower and your strength, inevitably you will lose because it's going to be relentless with you. But if you summon its owner to come and dispense with it, then that's a much easier way of dealing with it. And who is the owner here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the verse that the Shaykh cites here to not be used as a pretext has another meaning. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. مَنَ الَّذِي أَلْهَمَهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires itself with awareness of what is wrong for it and what is right for it. So he's saying, لَا تَحْتَجُونَ بِالْقَدْرِ. Yani don't say, oh, Allah didn't give me ilham of my nafs, so nothing I can do about it. No, that's not how the verse is supposed to be understood. We understand that it does have the potential to be inspired, but you have to avail it of that inspiration. And who is the one who's going to do that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So really it's about the servant of God, the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to put their thiqah, put their confidence, and put their trust and their tawakkul and their tafweed and their agency completely in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help them overcome their souls, overcome their lower nufus. Allahumma malikna nufusana wa la tusallitha alayna, somebody used to say. Allahumma malikna nufusana. Allah give us tamlik, give us some ownership of our nufus, wa la tusallitha alayna, and do not set our nufus upon our own selves. Like much in the way of like a rabid dog. Don't set the nufus upon us, but rather help us to overcome our nufus. And then the Shaykh says something interesting in the beginning when he says your lower self is the obstacle keeping you from real knowledge of al-Khalq, ma'rifah of al-Khalq. And there is a hadith or reportedly a hadith, but the meaning is sound. مَنْ عَرَفَ نَفْسَهُ عَرَفَ رَبَّهُ. Whoever knows themselves knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, and also taken with the hadith, al-mu'minu mir'atul mu'min, the believer is the mirror of the believer. And so if we're seeing al-khalq via our own very narrow-minded view of our nufus, right, and nafs mabni ala al-tama' والتسلط والحسد والغيرة وما إلى ذلك. So the lower self always seeks to see what other people have and what they possess, and it questions why this person has this thing and you don't have it, and if they have this thing, then how do I go about getting it? And that's a type of hijab, he says here. That's a type of obstacle. You don't really see the other person, you just see them, or you see creation as something that's merely there for you to indulge yourself in. So he made it more general than just saying other human beings. He says al-khalq, so all of creation. And so then you tend to look at creation as just, the playing field for you to enjoy yourself and indulge and so forth. And so you look at the world like that. And someone who is purely narcissistic or egotistical, that's kind of how they look at the world. They see everything simply is there for their own amusement. It's at their disposal, and they don't really give any sort of sentience to anything but themselves. And so everything in their view becomes an object. And what's keeping them, what makes them look at things like objects and not really real, is their nafs. So that's what he means, Allahu A'lam, when he says your lower self is the obstacle keeping you from real knowledge, ma'rifah of the creature. So what is a creature really? Is a khalq. So there's no khalq without khaliq. So there's no creature without creator. So ultimately everything is a creature of God. And that is the most basic fundamental way to define anyone or anything. And that's what ennobles it. What gives you your nobility is that you're a creature of God, you're a creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what gives the ant and the bee and the tree and the sparrow and the pigeon and the sea and the river and the ocean and the mountain and the sun and the moon and the stars, their nobility is that they're all creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that means they're not merely there for our amusement and to dispense with and use or misuse or abuse as we see fit, that will feed our ever relentless and voracious appetite for pleasure and amusement, which is we are commanded to by this nafs al-ammara bis-su, by this lower soul. So in order to get out of that very sort of ugly way of existence, he says, get out of yourself, right? Move beyond, transcend beyond yourself. So the lower self is the obstacle keeping you from real knowledge of creatures, while creatures, the creation, are the obstacle keeping you from real knowledge of the creator. As long as you remain stuck with your lower self, you cannot really know the creation. And as long as you remain stuck with the creation, you cannot really know the Lord of truth. And so when you start to see creatures as creatures of Allah and as al-khalq, that's also a form of hijab, or an obstacle or a veil from you seeing your creator. So if you see only the multitudes, you see the kathra, right? And the Quran says, أَلْهَاكُمْ التَّكَاثُرُ حَتَّى زُرْتُمْ الْمَقَابِرِ. أَلْهَاكُمْ التَّكَاثُرُ. You have been distracted by the takathur, right? وَلَا يَعْجِبُكَ كَثْرَةَ الْخَبِيثِ, and also mentioned in the Quran. Don't even, just because the khabith is a lot and you become mesmerized, and the khabith is something that's ugly and filthy and impure, don't become mesmerized because of the multitudes of it. Al-hakum al-takathur, similarly. So don't be distracted by the takathur, by the multitudes. And so you can be distracted by creation, or you can see via past the veil of creation and see what's behind creation, namely the creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so once you move beyond being, as he says here, being stuck with creatures, then you can really know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And similarly, if you remain stuck with this world, you can't know the hereafter. If all your whole thing is about dunya, يعلمون ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا. That's all they know. They just know the outer aspect of the dunya, and they don't know anything about the akhirah. There's no ijtihad, there's no mujahada, there's no struggling and striving to know about what really is the most real or the more real, which is the akhirah. And then he says, well, what do we do? How do we come about fixing this? And then he mentions the qalb, and he mentions the sir and their subservience. So this is actually a way of looking at, sometimes the ulama speak about the nafs and the aql, which is the intellect, and the qalb, which is the heart, and the ruh, which is the spirit, and the sir, which is the innermost spirit, innermost being, those five things, as kind of all essential aspects of our humanity. And sometimes they speak about them in the form of a hierarchy. So like Shaykh Abd al-Jilani is doing here. So at the lowest level is an-nafs, specifically an-nafsu al-ammarat bis-su', the soul that commands to iniquity. And at the higher form of existence, or higher form of, let's say, the driver and motivator for what we do and what we don't do, is the qalb. So he says, how long therefore will it be until you take your orders from what the heart commands? أَلَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. So the qalb, in this topology, is also referred to as that which uses the basira, the inner eye, حتى تفرق بين الحق والباطل, so that it can distinguish between truth and falsehood. So the qalb then is kind of your insight, or it uses insight, uses basira to distinguish between those two things. And so how long are you going to ignore that and just take the cues from your ego, from your lower soul, from an-nafs al-amara bis-su'? So take your order from the qalb. So that's why you must struggle against the self under all circumstances. And that's why they give some of these, let's call them pro tips, in how to deal with the nafs. And they would say something like, whichever weighs more heavily upon you, أَيُّهُمَا أَثْقَلُ عَلَيْكَ, then do that one. So whichever one the nafs finds more difficult to do, then kind of do mujahada to do that. So the nafs surely wants to sleep in the morning and not wake up, and continue to sleep and not wake up for fajr, because that's more comfortable and that's easier for it. Whereas the qalb, الَّذِي يُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ الْحَقِّ وَالْبَاطِلِ, that which can make a distinction between truth and falsehood, knows the truth lies in its waking up and seeking the countenance of its Lord and calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the wee hours of the morning, when Allah's mercy descends. So the qalb realizes that, but the nafs is not very cooperative. So yes, it's thaqeel, right? It's going to be heavy, it's going to be not easy. وَلَكِنْ الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. The ones who make this mujahada, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide them to His ways, to Him. So he says, melt it down. The wibhu, right, which is thawaban, melt it, So it means, when you melt something, it doesn't just go away all of a sudden, right? It takes time. So little by little, it melts away until it's no longer there. So melt it down through struggle. For when it has melted and faded, it will become meekly subservient to the heart. And then your tiba, right, then your aada, your personal inclination, will more closely match that of what the qalb realizes to be truth. الَّذِي يُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ الْحَقِّ وَالْبَاطِلِ, as you said, that makes a distinction between truth and falsehood. Then the heart will become subservient to the sir. And the sir will become subservient to the Lord of Truth. So the sir, which is the part of you that kind of has the most direct relationship to the divine, most direct relationship, the open channel, so to speak, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you want to open that channel up. But as long as we're taking cues from the nafs, that channel remains closed. And then once we open that channel up and we move away from just worldly and bodily pleasures and the like, or at least not to be ruled by such worldly and bodily pleasures, then we will be taking, inshaAllah, direct knowledge and inspiration via our asrar, via our innermost being, from al-Haqq Azza wa Jal, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then at that point, all will drink from the same source. And so the hierarchy then is put in the right order. And so the nafs is all the way down at the lowest level, rather than being at the top. At the worst, when the ego is controlling everything, then it even uses the aql, which is the intellect, to do its bidding for it. And so that's how people, become very clever and look for ways to get what they want. And when we talk about someone who's conniving and, like the conniving nature of the fox, in and out and hiding and back and forth and up and down, then that's using the aql in the wrong way, using the intellect in the wrong way to get that which it desires, and somehow justifies that to itself. But when the sir, which is taking ilham and taking al-ma'ani al-wahbiyya wal-ilm al-ladunni wa ma ila zalik, it's taking the meanings that are gifted meanings to it directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because now the ego is not getting in the way, then the pattern changes, and then the hierarchy is put in the right way, and the nafs remains subservient and meek as it should be. And then even when it does have its flare-ups, the sir is awake, the ruh is awake, the qalb is awake, so you recognize when it's trying to get you to do something that is kind of the old ways, and to try to move back from that. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tamlik of our nufus, وَلَا يُسَلِّطْهَا عَلَيْنَا, and we ask Him not to set our nufus upon ourselves. So there's another section I want to read that kind of reinforces this, that the Shaykh talks a little bit about his own experience, page 260, for those who are following. He says, يا غلام اجهد أن تموت ها هنا بين يدي الحق عز وجل، اجهد أن تموت نفسك قبل خروج روحك من بدنك، موتها بالصبر والمخالفة، فعن قريب تحمل عاقبة ذلك، صبرك يفنى وجزاؤه لا يفنى، إني صبرت ورأيت عاقبة الصبر محمودة، مت ثم أحياني ثم أماتني، وغبت ثم أوجدني من غيبتي، هلكت معه وملكت معه، جاهدت نفسي في ترك الاختيار والإرادة حتى حصل لي ذلك، فصار القدر يقودني، والمنة تنصرني، والفعل يحركني، والغيرة تعصمني، والإرادة تطيعني، والسابقة تقدمني، والله عز وجل يرفعني. Says, you must endeavor to die right here in the presence of the Lord of Truth, al-Haq. You must endeavor to have your lower self die before the departure of your spirit, your ruh, from your body. Its death will come about through patience and opposition. Then you will soon celebrate the outcome of this. Your patient suffering will cease, but its reward will never pass away. I have practiced patience, Shaykh talking about himself, and I have seen that the outcome of patience is commendable. I died, then He revived me, then He caused me to die. I vanished from existence, then He brought me back into existence out of my invisibility, or my absence, my ghaiba. I perished, halaktu, in His company, and I was empowered, malaktu, in His company. I struggled against my lower self by giving up the exercise of choice, ikhtiyar, and will, irada, until this came about for me, so that destiny, qadar, began to guide me, grace, minna, to help me, action, to move me, and ghayra, jealous care, to safeguard me. The will, irada, to obey me, and as-sabiqa, preordination, to promote me, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise me up. So it's about tark al-ikhtiyar, which is another way of saying at-tafweed, right, of putting your complete trust, tawakkul, agency into Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this death and rebirth that I think we also mentioned previously, it's the death of the nafs, right? And they call it al-maut al-aswad, some of the traditions. So, die that death of the nafs, or at least the nafs al-ammara bis-su, right? Then a new nafs will be born, the one that he mentioned earlier, the one then that will be subservient to the qalb and subservient to the sir and subservient to the will and command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to the, I guess, casual observer, it may sound a little bit like giving up your choice in life, and it may sound constricting. But in actuality, this is liberation, because you will be a prisoner of your own ego, you'll be a prisoner of your own whims and desires, as long as you let it do that to you. And how many are the people who complain about not being able to stop a particular bad habit, or to live a particular lifestyle, or to give up something that is clearly destructive to their health and to their mental and spiritual well-being, but they don't know how to stop. And that's a prison, right? So addictive behavior, for example, addiction is certainly a pure aspect of the nafs, of the ego, that seeks comfort, that seeks to run away from pain, that seeks to give it what it wants. And so if we let the nafs, if we submit to it and let it lead us around, then ultimately it will lead to the destruction, maybe to the destruction of the soul. So when he says you must endeavor to die right here in the presence of Allah, die the death of the nafs, or the black death, before your actual death, right? And some of the hadith indicate this: "Mutu qabla an tamutu, hasabu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu." Die before you die. In other words, take yourself into account before you take it into account. But it also means put this passionate, appetitive aspect of who you are, keep it at bay, and let the true you come out. Let the true potential that every human being possesses and has the ability to possess come out, and then you will find, the outcome, as he said, will bring happiness and bring falah and felicity, and so forth, in this life, and inshallah, that will be our unwan, a sign of the thing that's supposed to come also in the next life. And they say that usually when someone gets to the point of the beginnings of this type of ma'rifah, and let's call it even wilayah, then generally they don't go back to this. They don't go back to a lower level of the nafs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is too kareem, too kind, too generous to have us fall back upon ourselves, unless we bring that upon ourselves. And so this type of hifz, right, this is called to be mahfuz, to be preserved, is something that is within everybody's grasp and within everybody's reach, and it's not an impossible endeavor to think about. But it does take sidq al-tawajjuh, it does take a true turning towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it does take patience and forbearance. And they say that you are more in need of patience when you are obeying Allah than when you're disobeying Allah. Because even when you get to the level of obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not like the nafs says, oh, okay, you're praying and fasting and paying zakah and going to hajj, or I guess I lost, see you later. No. He just fine-tunes his approach. So now he's going to try to get you from another door, right, which is bab al-ujb, right, and takun mu'jab bi'amalik, to be impressed with yourself. So being self-impressed can happen via tanawul shahawat, right, via taking on, indulging oneself and saying, hey, look, I'm liberated, I can do what I want. But for others who've moved past that, then it could also come via saying, oh, I am a salik, I am a seeker, I am an elite Muslim, I pray and I fast, and most everybody around me doesn't do any of that, so that's pretty impressive, and so forth. So that's also manfadh. It's a type of window or opening. You leave the door ajar a little bit that the nafs can come in and do that. And of course, shaitan comes in right after him. So it means tafna. So to die is a type of fana, right? To be oblivious even to your own perception of your deeds. So the idea is to do and keep moving forward and don't look back, right? Don't look back, oh, I just did those million great things, and I founded the orphanage, and I built the school, and I did all these great things, and you're kind of just sitting there. No, do what you need to do, plant the seeds, irrigate, let the tree grow, let it bear fruit, and detach yourself from the whole thing, from the whole affair. So detach yourself from the deeds that you did and the ones that you continue to do, and you move forward. You keep looking forward and know that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in store for you coming ahead is even going to be greater than what you think you're looking at from behind. So take out the rear view mirror. There's no reason to look back at it, and just keep your eyes on the road in front of you. So it says, I vanished from existence, then he brought me back. So fana thumma baqa. So fana, I became oblivious to all of the nonsensical things and trivial things that people are into all around me. But then when I came back in a new sense. I came back, أنا باقي مع الباقي. Right now, I am باقي مع الباقي. I am remaining with the one who is ever remaining, namely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why he said, هلكت ثم ملكت. هلكت ثم ملكت. I perished, and then I was empowered. So this is the true empowerment. Not empowerment to do whatever you want, and just to be self-expressive and say, hey, world, look at me. Here I am, which is the very distasteful, ugly, false sense of empowerment that people have today. But true empowerment is tamlak ma Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هو الذي يملكك. The one who's going to empower you is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it starts by struggling against the lower soul, the ego, the nafs. And you're going to have consistent battles with it. Sometimes you'll win, sometimes you'll lose. But the idea is you continue and continue and continue until eventually, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala لو حفت بك العناية الخاصة, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surrounds you in his special inayah, his care, then you will get out of that and you'll be something completely different after that. And then you see the winds of the qadr, like he says here, so that destiny began to guide me. In other words, you see as things are enveloping, as they're turning out, well, that's exactly how they're supposed to be, because that's the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to be, right? And then your will becomes Allah's, in line with Allah's will. And then you see the sabiqah. You don't see that I am affecting God and having him do my bidding for me. It's actually the other way around. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I do the bidding for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he is the one yuharrikuni, he is the one who is moving me, and like the marionette, so to speak, pulling my strings, and I am doing his bidding. But I am doing his bidding for khair, for good. And it doesn't matter now what I want, because what I really want is what he wants. Then this is the muwafaqah that the Shaykh talks about several times. The muwafaqah being that I be in alignment, in agreement exactly with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from me and what he desires from me. So I'll just read one last part. I'm not going to get to the 44th discourse, so much for that plan. On page 262, for those of you who are following. He said, أما سمعت قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة ما دمت مبتدئا معتدا طالبا سالكا فحب الدنيا في حقك رأس كل خطيئة فإذا انتهى سر قلبك ووصل إلى قرب الحق عز وجل حبب إليك قسمك من الدنيا وبغض إليك قسم غيرك يحبب إليك أقسامك حتى تستوفيها تحقيقا لعلمه السابق فيك فتقنع بها ولا تلتفت إلى غيرها وقلبك قائم بين يديه يتقلب في الدنيا كتقلب أهل الجنة في الجنة ما يجري عليك من الحق عز وجل محبوبك لأنك تريد بإرادته وتختار باختياره وتدور مع قدره وتقطع عن قلبك جميع ما سواه تنحى الدنيا والآخذ عنك فيصير تناولك للأقسام وحبك لها به لا بك. So he says, is this world, have you not heard the saying of the Prophet ﷺ, the love of this world is the chief part of every error. As long as you are a novice, a mubtadi on the path, or a follower, a muqtadi, a seeker, a traveler, the love of this world will be the chief part of every error as far as you are concerned. So all the mistakes, if you're in this beginning part of the path, go back and you'll see that you'll want something of the dunya. When your heart comes to the end of the journey, and attains the nearness, al-qurb of al-haq, he will cause you to love your own allotted share of this world and to feel dislike for the portion of another. This is your allotment, this is your qismah, and you don't want someone else's. He will make your own allotments attractive to you. This is what is called al-rida bil-qada. You'll be contented with that which Allah has distributed to you, so that you will use them to the full in consummation of His foreknowledge concerning you. Thus you will be satisfied with them and pay no attention to others. Your heart, qalb, will reside in His presence, even if it moves about, yataqallabu, in this world. So you still move on, but your heart is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just as the people of paradise move about in the garden. Everything that comes your way from the Lord of Truth will be dear to you, because you wish through His wishing, His irada, you choose through His choosing, His ikhtiyar, and move with His qadar, His destiny. Separate your heart from everything apart from Him, and detach this world and the hereafter from you. Your acquisition of your allotted shares and your fraudness for them will thus come about through Him, not through you. Right? So, فَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ وَإِذَا اسْتَسْأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلِ اللَّهِ. If you seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not going to be some epic battle that you're going to wage against your nafs, and you're going to come on the top of the mountain and holding your nafs's limp body, so to speak, a representation of that on the top of the mountain, and declare yourself victorious. That's also a manifestation of the nafs. They think you can do it all by yourself. No, do it through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do it by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do it by following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do it by being amongst the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has encouraged you to be with. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen. Be with the sadiqeen. Be with ahlillah. Be with the people who remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who remind you of our eventuality, and that we will be rejoined with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not the people who remind you of dunya, not the people who coax you towards dunya, and not the people of qila wal qal, not the people of what did this person do, what did that person do, and just talk about other people, and that's the whole conversation. No, be with ahlillah, inshallah. So we'll stop here, inshallah. Allah ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.